This is the Mike LiPetri Show. Nassau County property taxes are way too high. That's why you need Reassessment and Evaluation Services, Inc., the #1 tax grievance provider that offers personal service and high success rates. Grieve your taxes now before the deadline on March 1st, 2024. Call today for more info, 516-742-5180, or apply online at reassessmytaxes.com. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have here a wonderful, terrific, amazing guest on the Mike LiPetri Show, Matty Aracich. What's up, Matty? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hey, just let me begin by saying thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak here. We've been friends for a long time, but I will tell you that this is an honor.
I appreciate it immensely. I mean, your wealth of knowledge, your experience in your position as president for the past 6 years with the Building Construction Trades Council of Nassau and Suffolk County, and also president of the National Offshore Wind Training Center, which off camera, I wanted to specify if that he was the president of that, because when I first read it, I was absolutely amazed with this guy's wealth of experience. I mean, this guy, for all of you viewers and listeners, he has been unanimously elected as president of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Nassau and Suffolk County for the past 6 years. In his role as president, he represents more than 65,000 skilled tradeswomen and tradesmen who belong to 36 affiliated labor organizations. He has an impressive resume, initially beginning his career in construction as a commercial driver more than 40 years ago, rebuilding Amtrak train trestle bridges in Connecticut. You've also traveled the world and sought employment overseas, working for the USGS, recording seismic activity and water flow. I mean, you have been a wealth of knowledge, experience, somebody that truly has been building from the ground up and understands what all your members do day in and day out to build out Long Island's economy and build out all these projects that you're seeing. And what's so great and what I admire is before you were president, Long Island didn't have multi-billion-dollar projects. That wasn't like a thing. But now, since your advocacy on behalf of all your 65,000 members, we have seen a wealth of different multi-billion-dollar projects. What do we have? We got the Midway Crossing, Ronkonkoma Hub. What else am I missing, Matty?
You have Belmont, which is now at
Belmont.
this point $2.4 billion when you put all those components together. You'll have the offshore wind, which is $70 billion. So between that, and then you have Brookhaven National Labs.
You got the Ion Collider, which I don't even know what that is, an Ion Collider. Like the science behind that is just, I just say it and it just sounds so cool. Like, I think it's something is that going to help us teleport into the future? Is that what we're?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Or and it doesn't help us go backwards either.
It doesn't help us go. Damn. All right. I love it's amazing the technology that's here, but what people don't realize is that you have to first build all these facilities from the ground up, and that's what your members do. And I think it's incredible what you've been able to achieve as president. And I've loved talking to you on different issues and the variety of subject matters. And we got a couple here that I really want to touch upon. Specifically, let's start off with what we've seen since the pandemic is a huge labor shortage that's causing supply chain issues and causing these disruptions throughout our economy. That's rising costs, and people need to realize that we need to have these jobs that are filled. Can you talk about how that's radically changed since the pandemic, where that shortage itself, and how you and your organization have been making that difference?
Sure. So go back to 5 years ago, just like you were mentioning. And so, we actually had 60,000 members that were in the council. Since the pandemic, or even before the pandemic, the idea was to go ahead and stimulate all of this so that we have those multi-billion-dollar projects. And those projects are tremendous opportunities for us. And that does not include any of the infrastructure that's coming along. So we have 60,000 members back then. Today, we have 65,000 members. If all goes well, we believe that through the amount of work that we have coming, which also has to include Sands Integrated Resort and NYU Langone, which are another $7.5 billion just on their own.
Crazy money.
Between three projects, which is the grandstand at Belmont, the project that we have over at Sands, and also the one at the Midway Crossing, that's going to put 20,000 members to work.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I love that. But here's the thing, is that are we pushing as a society more people into these skilled trades? Don't we need more? Like, I'm wondering, why can't we create apprenticeship programs from the ground up? I'm talking about like middle school level, early high school level. Do we have that? What is it? What is the current situation? How can that change?
That's a great focus on the conversation that we're having with everyone, whether it be the towns, the counties, the states, the elected officials, whether it be the school districts. The concept is that we've already engaged on a community level as well as on a level with the community colleges, such as Nassau Community College, and we're putting together a program which utilizes those members or those people who want to become members, which means that we're going into diverse communities, looking for inclusion, and making sure we hit those that are geographically, unfortunately, let's use the words, hindered when it comes to abilities to have work. So whether it be that they're depressed or challenged, the idea is whether it be transportation or not, we believe that the building trades is actually the road to the middle class. So with the pre-apprentice programs and apprentice programs, it's going to give everybody the ability to become that person who has a stable career, stable benefits, and in addition to that, retirement and health care. I mean, these are the things with skilled training, you're going to be the safest workers throughout the country because that's our focus. Safety is the number one component. Following that, it's about earning and making sure that we have market share. And we are doing better. As you heard me say, 65,000 right now.
Yes.
And we haven't talked about any of the infrastructure that's come in this direction, whether it be sewer, water, roadway, bridges, hospitals.
I think it's tremendous. Now, how do we get it earlier, though? Because why do we have to wait till 18? Can't we come in can't we have the unions speak to these students in their 13, 14 years old? Because why do they have to go through high school? If school's not for them, they work better with their hands. They want to be out there. They want to build something. They want to create. And yet I feel like we have this education system that is one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't cater to your membership. And for me, I look at it as, in a sense, making the members feel left out in a way because that's not who they are. That's not what their strengths are. So has there been pushback on your end? Have you pushed that idea? What are your thoughts on that? Am I missing something?
No, as a matter of fact, we're expanding that thought as you speak. The idea is that we are going to engage the high school students both with job fairs that we normally do, but in addition to that, on the BOCES level. So BOCES has those that elect to go to 1, 2, or 3 years of training for vocationals during their high school years.
I think it's great.
Right. Well, now what's going to happen is in their last year, we're going to put them in touch with Opportunities Long Island, which is a pre-apprentice program through Nassau Community College. With that, it gives them a more well-rounded approach and idea of how it's like or what it's like to work in the trades. So they'll be able to see, touch, and feel exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So it's no longer a goal. It's the words or expectations. Because those expectations are, I've done all these things, I believe that I'm prepared, and now at that point, once they get into a pre-apprentice program, then it sets the road for them to do what they want to do.
Do the unions, say students go into this pre-apprenticeship program, do the unions then take from these pre-apprenticeship programs directly, or is it still unsure? Like if these kids go into these programs, they're going to have careers set for them.
Correct. These are direct applicant, direct entry programs.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Exactly, which means you're getting them early. You're getting the person that, look, a kid has a thought, he wants to be a baseball player. So he plays high school sports and he goes to college. He's got that thought. The only difference is when you go to college, the one thing about college is it costs you a lot of money.
Ridiculous amount of money.
Right. And then, of course, then you meet somebody at the end of your term, and then you now have a job. And the idea is that both of you have good jobs, maybe even 6 figures, but you also have a $200,000 debt for all of your education. And your partner has the $200,000 debt. So between, it's like $400,000, you're making a couple $100,000, but you still have to pay rent. You still have to pay what is essentially a mortgage for your education.
100%.
The difference with us is we'll train all the people that come into these programs, pre-apprentice and apprenticeship programs, and there's no cost to them.
Right.
And they earn while they learn. So in the course of 4 and 5 years, at the end of your 4th year, you've now have enough money that you can put down a down payment on a home. You've had 4 years of pension. You're on your own health care benefits. You not have to have subsidized benefits or on your parents. And the concept is you're a leg up on everybody else.
I swear. Your members are the backbone of Long Island's economy because for that exact reason. Everybody else is hampered in debt, and that's the exact reason what we're seeing is having problems with the younger generations, is starting families, building their careers themselves because they're hindered by whether it be credit card interest rates, car loans, home mortgages, and then, boom, student loans. Getting that $400,000, $500,000 in debt just to have what, $60K, $70K, $80K. Meanwhile, your members, was it $75 an hour? Is that what the
That's the minimum.
the minimum benefit with all benefits,
Correct.
everything, right?
That is the minimum. So if we're talking about how this all works, the perfect example is explaining what we did in Huntington, which is the pre-apprenticeship program. The concept is OLI took 19 people right from that area.
Great.
So we're going to do some quick math. I don't think you can do it in your head.
Let's see.
But I got the numbers.
Math. Hold
Ready?
on.
So it's 19 people earn $75 an hour times 40 hours a week times 48 weeks a year is how much money?
Tell me.
It's $2.7 million.
Boom.
Now, if those people, what they do, they stay in the industry.
Yep.
And now they work for 30 years, never get another raise, ever. Just if they never got a raise.
Right.
How much money is that?
Tell me.
It's $82 million. That's 19 people. That's real economic development.
That's real
The
growth,
concept
baby.
is they get continuous raises and benefits and improvements throughout their entire career. So we're only talking about 19 people for a community. That's exactly what community benefits are. So we are the barometer for the economy. If we're working, that means the economy's good.
And that's exactly the game changer that has to happen. Because I was reading with nearly 1 in 4 construction workers older than 55, retirements will continue to whittle away at the construction workforce. So we need that youth coming in. We need to have it where we're pushing these skilled tradesmen. We need to make sure we are boosting and building our economy literally from the ground up. I mean, this is a tremendous change. And that's why I want to see, specifically as you have more and more issues with college where it's becoming way too pricey, way too costly, and the ROI, in my opinion, doesn't add up anymore as you keep pushing up that debt. So for me, I'm looking at it as saying we need to have schools, all schools, not just 19, but we need to have hundreds and hundreds every year in a community being pushed towards this target way, because I think for long term, that's going to be the game changer for us. But now with that said, long term.
So let's talk about that for long term.
Yes, please.
We're going to take those same 19 people.
Yes.
Okay. With the idea of if you're using men and women of color, so you're doing inclusion and diversity simultaneously.
Right.
Now what happens is instead of having anyone on subsidized benefits, which is whether it be through the state or the federal government, you're actually having them where they earn their way out. And that's exactly what they want to do. The one thing about earning a living is it gives you a sense of pride.
Totally.
And when you can go ahead and show your family your home, the first that goes to college is a great thing. The first that buys his home is equally as good. And the fact is, if you're able to buy your home, provide for your family, start a family, I mean, that's what the American dream is all about.
I think, and it's about building financial freedom. I think that's been, for me, that has been a concept that I've been trying to impute upon others throughout our community, is building financial freedom. It's from myself and my generation, what I want to advance is the idea it's not about being the first going to college. It's about the first being financially free from government, free from debt, free from loan sharks, whoever it may be. But your ability to live your life the way you want, and your council does just that. You provides that financial freedom, and that's something that you should be very proud of.
Well, we are. In fact, we call it financial literacy, because what happens is we don't want to see the young guy or the young girl come in and say, I have all this money. And all of a sudden, it's great that they should buy a house, but maybe they buy their first great car. Then they buy a boat. Then they buy a jet ski. Then they buy an apartment. And next thing you know, it's kind of like now they have so many bills that they've put themselves in a position of saying, where am I going to go from here? And we make sure that they understand that, when it's busy, and you should work all the time. One of the things my father told me when I was younger is when an employer says, hey, I need you to work Saturday, you should go to work.
Yes.
He goes, not because you need the money, because you should work, because when you go to work, the employer is going to look back and say, I can count on this fella. And I know that this is the type of workforce I have, and I could be more aggressive, and I can make sure that I can supply the vendors and the contacts and customers that I have and know that I could deliver. So That's the biggest thing, is making sure that you are loyal, responsible, and sustainability isn't just on the environment.
Right.
It's for a workforce too.
Let me ask you now, how does AI innovation, 3D printing, things of that nature, affect the future projects?
You know, we're in the early stages of AI. As everybody knows, for the last 10 or so years, we've been looking at pre-printed houses, which is
Right.
where they take concrete and it's computer driven along a scaffold or a predetermined track. And the concept is that they could build a house effectively and quicker.
Can you?
They can, but you know, there's also other things. There are limitations. But as every process develops, it's going to be a new addition to what's going on. When we're saying that that's going to be the look at the future, sure, it is. But we're going to address it. We're going to make sure that we can train those people to make sure that they understand the AI development. Because in that same case, aside from building, it's also clearing land, which today they have the ability to use heavy equipment where it's pre-programmed using GPS, and they will clear a plot of land and make it virtually level. And it works 24 hours a day. It doesn't work 8 hours a day.
Interesting.
Right, so you're getting 3 times the speed, even if it's at the same speed. There is no slowdown.
Okay.
There is no labor issues. Quite frankly, if the weather is cooperative, that's all there is to it.
But your members would be the ones overseeing this technology, is that correct?
Again, it means that these members would program
Correct.
those machines.
Okay, so you'd be adapting through your apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs. You'd be adapting to the technology that we're seeing as the years advance.
Correct. In fact, we've taken a very big leap forward with Suffolk County, which is there's a workforce development center, which is actually going to be on Wicks Road.
Oh, excellent.
Right. And with that, we're going to have the National Offshore Wind Training Center in there too. With that, there's going to be other things such as a component for composite structures, which means that joining metals to plastics and working with the youth to show that, you know, these things are possible. Space age technologies.
It sounds like ion collider stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and now you're gonna be integrating too, as we get these offshore wind projects, you'll be integrating much of your membership within those construction projects as well.
Correct. It is the leap towards a new generation of construction, which, look, the next thing we're talking about is, you know, you go to a job site, everybody sees it. There's a foreman, there's workers, etc. And the guy stays out afterwards and he's taking his evaluation of the building, etc. And then a contractor has to send a representative out to do a takeoff. Those things don't have to happen anymore. You know, the one thing that COVID taught us is that, you know, those concepts of saying, you know, we could work from home or we could do things remotely, you know, it was always kind of like, we could do it, but we never really got there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the thing that stimulated the projects. And I will tell you that now you can go to a project, take your iPad, and when you get there, your contractor has already sent you the plans, the direction, an appointment for a delivery at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, tells you who's working there with you. Everything is handled remotely. And then when you're done, you could use that same iPad and take snapshots of the work that you've completed. Put labels on things so that they're also time and date stamped. Send it as a photograph or a Dropbox. And next thing you know, that person who came out to do the walkthrough and make sure that they, you know, do a fair evaluation, say, I could bill for this, they could do it now from the office.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. We had a contractor who just did two of these processes and has made his business 30% more profitable.
There you go. And that's exactly it with now when you're seeing
Two people.
Exactly. And when you're seeing these costs increase due to all these supply chain issues, et cetera, now you can find ways to make up that difference through the efficiencies.
Correct.
And technology.
BIM technology, which is a process of using overlay.
What was it called?
BIM, B-I-M.
BIM.
Which is its construction model. Actually gives you the ability to put on a headset. And you can actually look on a construction site to see if you're going to put a pipe in or a duct in, if it will fit.
Oh, that's awesome. Like VR kind of?
It's like VR, correct.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's the stuff that, and all your workers will be trained on these types of technologies. And
I wouldn't say all.
Okay, well,
You know,
let me
these
say.
are going to be the fighter pilots of
Gotcha.
the construction industry.
All right.
You know, no different than in the offshore wind. Those people that work on the nacelles, which is the offshore wind, are going to be one of the most highly trained and safety trained people out there. So you got to remember, if you're going to be working on the offshore wind, you're going to be mechanically inclined. You'll be a team builder. You'll be computer literate. You'll be a crisis management. You can be strong, dexterity, not afraid of heights. It's the greatest thing because all those things fit into one mold, and that's how you are selected to do that job.
I love it.
But there's a screening process there too. That screening process is all the things I mentioned. There's one thing I left out, which is you can have all the education in the world, and all those accolades. If you're seasick, it puts you into a fetal position, and now you're useless.
Right.
So that's the whole component of making sure that we train and we identify those that are doing the right things and those that fit these molds so that they don't waste their time.
That's excellent. I mean, you're finding the perfect fit. I mean, you're bringing the right workers to the right projects and getting it done in the most efficient manner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what we need nowadays more than ever. And this is incredible. So now with that said, we're adapting to technology, but now you're hearing this huge federal issue, which is regarding the migrants. And you're having illegal immigration, that whole subject matter. I just want to know, how does that affect your members and your membership? Now you're having requests from the state asking for work permits for those who are requesting this asylum and coming over the border. How does that affect your membership, if at all?
It has yet to be determined, but I could tell you this. At that stage at the moment, we are, as we mentioned, the 7 project labor agreements that were, or $7 billion projects, multi-billion. Those are all using those that are affiliates of the building trades.
Right.
You're talking about other work such as maybe strip malls, corporate spaces, that can impact us. We haven't seen it at the moment, but quite frankly, it's just another avenue which we can do 2 things. If they have a path to citizenship, we can make them members.
Right.
And if they're not able to do the work, we just fill the supply anyway.
Correct.
Yeah. So we've been very fortunate in that way. One of the things that makes it different on Long Island as opposed to somewhere in New York City is you could travel in New York City for the day for $5. Take the subway, go uptown, take the subway back downtown. You can go into Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx for the same $5. So think about that. You can't do that in Nassau and Suffolk counties.
Right. Does congestion pricing, speaking of the cost, does that at all impact your membership with those who may work in the city and traveling to and from?
It may. It may
Yeah.
if they choose to work in the city, and that's a local labor issue, which
Okay.
is that the local union has to go ahead and supply people. But here's a question for you. We've grown and we have the ability to keep growing. I say that because look at it from this perspective. When it came to the Belmont Park Arena project, they had said, hey, we don't believe you're going to have enough people. And I said, that's absolutely false. I said, we'll be able to supply the people. They said, how can you guarantee that? I said, very simple. We have 60,000 members at the time we were talking. So I said 60,000. So if those that are going to work in the city have to go ahead and travel through the city, they're going to pass the job at Belmont, spend an extra hour to an hour and a half to get to their job.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to pay for parking. They're going to have to pay a toll. And then, God forbid, they have to pay congestion pricing. And then they have to come back, and the only thing they have to pay is just the time, which is another hour, hour and a half. So when they're passing that same job, that's 3 hours out of their day, or maybe 2 hours out of their day. And they're going to say to themselves, that's 10 hours a week. I'm not with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 hours a week that, I get more sleep, and I can do other things around the house. I'm not drained. So that's one of the concerns. So as I said to the people at Belmont Park Arena, we can guarantee you'll have those people.
If you fund it, they will come.
If you give us the bids and the contracts,
Yeah.
we'll supply the workforce, the manpower.
I love that.
And I will tell you that to tell you how effective that was, we had a winter conference and a fellow named Richard Brown for Sterling, which is the part of the Belmont Park Arena's partners with the Oak Group and also with the Malkin Group. So those 3, including the Wilpons, actually put this all together. Well, the concept is that they were very hesitant in the beginning. At the end, through COVID, we delivered and on schedule. So he came down to our winter conference via remotely. He was actually in Florida, but his daughter was having a baby. And he put such a program on that the only mistake we did is we didn't tape it. He said, we'll never build another project on Long Island in Nassau-Suffolk without the use of the building trades, because they did more than what we thought they could do. They achieved the impossible, and quite frankly, there were no problems.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great endorsement for you
Correct.
guys, and a testament to your education, your knowledge, and then the workforce mentality,
Yeah.
frankly, of exactly what you just said, is that they ask you to come work on Saturday, come work.
Yeah.
And you get it done. And
Yeah.
within that, on schedule is key, because those timings, I mean, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how many projects, right? You've seen it, where they just keep going
Sure.
past the deadline. But for you guys to achieve that, you should be very proud.
Well, yeah, I am, and it's not me. I'm proud of the 65,000 people.
That's right. That's the team.
That's the team. I'm just the face. That's it.
It's a good face, though, Matty. Don't you worry.
No.
So let me ask you now, as we head to 2024, what are some of your big federal or state legislative priorities? We got the state session that starts in January of 2024, goes till June. Let's start with that. What are some of your priorities going forward?
Well, some of the things are the offshore wind.
Okay.
What
about it?
We've had a little bit of a stumbling point.
What specifically?
Well, there's a couple things. One is legislation. So we've had a hiccup when it came to Long Beach. We're in a process of trying to find a way that we could repair that and make it so that people understand that, it's the communication process is the part that failed you, not the project.
Okay.
Then the next piece is, it's got to have funding. And as much as people are concerned, about costs, one of the things you have to look at is everything went up in cost. Since COVID, the escalation of interest rates, inflation, supply chains.
Yeah, our state of economy has changed radically.
Has evolved into something nobody anticipated. So with that, supporting some kind of a change, or at least this point, an escalation in the prior contracts is the right thing. So whether it be Ørsted, Equinor, or the like, anybody who's involved with the power industry, they bid these projects with the concept that they could provide this in this amount of time. And then with delays, et cetera, and then COVID, those numbers are just not, as we see it, achievable financially. So we believe that there should be some kind of an escalation. We don't determine what it is, but there should be conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Separate from offshore wind now, what else is your priority then?
Water quality.
Okay.
So water quality, and whether it be the AI systems, or IA systems, I should say. IA systems as well as sewers. Look.
What are the IA systems for those that don't know and listeners?
So IA systems are a replacement for sewers. See, what happens is, as you're on the east end, it's not impossible, but it is cost prohibitive to do sewer lines for the amount of people or the locations on where they are. And this is a fairly good alternative, which means it reduces the nitrogens.
Right.
So, and that is the enemy of the environment, which is too much nitrogen. And don't get me wrong, you need it. You need it for plants, et cetera. However, everybody wants a green lawn, and we use 75% of our water for 2.5 months out of the year in Suffolk County. That's a little crazy. So between the sewer systems and the IA systems, we can go ahead and change the landscape of Long Island, so we're no longer polluting the waters that we're going to use for drinking. See, all that groundwater is going to get to the aquifer at some point.
Right.
So whether it be that the cesspools that we have, or any kind of a leaching field gets into the water. When I say any kind of a leaching field, I'm talking about things like service stations and manufacturing plants and fabricators. And 30 years ago, when you had an oil spill, throw a little gas on it, pick it up, and then hose it off. Well, that water is going into the ground. So that's where we are with the PFAS and the oils and the chemicals, the benzenes, et cetera. We should have learned our lesson. Collectively, now it's time for us to fix it.
So it's the state step in, then you're asking to regulate or prohibit certain projects from being done, or certain chemicals from being used. Is that correct?
I think.
What's the state's role then?
That's where PFAS is, which is it'll be discussed even more coming forward.
Right.
Because it's a forever chemical, but there are ways to break that bond so that forever chemical is gone too. So there are many things we have to deal with, whether it be energy issues, whether it be water quality, and the sewers as well. we have an opportunity to do this now. I can tell you that back in the time when Suffolk County got their first county executive, it was a fellow named Dennison, hence the Dennison
Yes.
building. Ironically, back in 1962, they published a report which says that Suffolk County should no longer use cesspools and leaching fields. They should have sewers. So if there's any correlation between that and my age, it's exactly the same. Because in 1961, when I was born, they knew that they couldn't do this, and they were compiling all the information. So that's how long it's taken, where we haven't done anything.
I can't stand that.
Back in the 70s, the Bergen Point got the first sewers, which was a great thing. And then it stalled because of whether it be corruption, cost. I think there were many reasons. So,
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that change because, as you know, when I was the co-chair of the statewide water quality task force, those were some big issues as well for Long Island for sustainability for the long term, specifically when you're building projects, when you're having a population increase, et cetera. As we draw more water or we abuse our water, then what? What are we doing?
right.
I mean,
And that sustainability is something that we're looking at. So one of the things we talk about is energy, and we're taking biomass. So watch this one. When Hurricane Sandy came here, it was disastrous. FEMA, when it provided $84 million just to go ahead and transport tree limbs, down trees, any kind of biomass, and bring them to the towns and locate them there, where they sat there for a while with the idea that, what's the big deal? They just leach into the ground. It's, they rot like everything else.
okay.
And everybody thinks the same thing. It becomes mulch. It's not the case. The more concentrated it is, it's worse for the water table. That's right. Most people don't think beyond that.
I would never have thought that.
Right. So with that, now what we want to do is turn lemons into lemonade, which means the next time, or even if we take the material that we have now, we could take that and we can take all of that biomass and make renewable diesel, which is petroleum free.
Yeah.
Right. In addition to that, if we don't want to use that, we can actually make hydrogen.
Would we have but do we have the technology that's available on Long Island here to
Yes.
be able to create that energy?
We do.
Okay, so
We do.
you don't have to do startup where we have to create this. This is already pre-existing that we can now substitute or supplant, I should say, and provide to consumers as a lower cost alternative. Is that right?
We could do a lot of things.
Okay.
So if we're able to turn this into hydrogen, what we could do is we can blend it into the natural gas system. At that point, because 95% of the gas lines in Nassau and Suffolk counties will be replaced, or better than 95% by the year 2025. That's incredible.
That is incredible.
Yes, which means that it's also done with high density polyethylene, which means it's hydrogen ready. It can even take 100% hydrogen. However, this is the first step in moving us forward to a greener economy and a zero carbon footprint.
Does it give us the same output, however? That's something that's critical as well.
Well, actually, no, it doesn't. It's actually better. However, there's a little bit more cost to it because it's early in the stages. But the
Right.
idea is that the federal government has said, we'd like to lower the cost of hydrogen 80% by 2030, okay?
Okay.
And I met with Secretary Granholm, and she goes through this great argument and presentation saying, I know we can get there. We have the smartest minds, the greatest workforce. We did it in World War II, where we always have this dedication. We have resilience. We know that we have the efforts and the will to do it. What do you think? I said, we're already there. And she looked at me, and I started mentioning about some of the products that we're doing now. She goes, that's incredible. So we believe that with some of these things, we're going to be located as a hydrogen hub through the state of New York,
That's
which is one of the
fantastic.
things. And it's going to propel us into another position which says that, Long Island, whether it be Nassau and Suffolk counties, has long relied on New York City as the economic engine. We may be able to get to a position where we can rely on our own for a region.
Economic independence.
Correct.
Baby.
And
I love it.
the only thing we have for independence on Long Island is voting, because we have 3.4 million people.
Right.
So
I think that's going to be that encourages me, and I find that very hopeful because that's exactly the imagery that I want to pervade throughout this society, specifically recognizing that over these next 10 years, Long Island has a promising future, whether it be in different industries, economics, energy, water. The future is bright for
Sure.
Long Island, so long as we take the right steps, the necessary steps,
Right.
and we have the vigor and most importantly the political will to move this forward and to make it actually come to fruition and materialize it so that it is executed properly, correctly. We have the better energy, we have better output, and ultimately we see a brighter future. I'm excited for this. This is going to be great, Maddie.
Yeah, look, if there's one thing I could say about the people on the island, and I work with a lot of them, whether it be elected officials, business leaders, labor leaders, et cetera, educators, they are outside the box thinkers.
Good.
And on top of that, it doesn't have to be their thought. It could be that I think that's a great thought. That's where the team building comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we talk about now is water. So, what if I told you that the largest source of water for Long Island isn't on Long Island? It's actually offshore Long Island, and we're not talking salt water.
Where?
It's actually 15,000 square miles, which goes from the one side of Rockaways to the other side of Martha's Vineyard. That's 9.25 times the landmass of Long Island, and it's underneath the seabed.
This is fresh water?
Fresh water.
Really?
So you can imagine.
Is that adjacent to the aquifer?
No.
Under it?
It's independent. So now what happens is, imagine that you have the offshore wind out there. Now you have a power source, and you can pump water from there onto Long Island. And then you could filter the water that we have here for an entire generation.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Now, the sink that we have with that is that as we make this biomass and fuel, what happens is, whether it be the hydrogen or the oils that we're making, so whether it be a replacement for diesel fuel or for a substitute in making a component of asphalt, it gives us the ability to do something different, which is we make sure that everything we have in this particular conversation is groundbreaking. When you're done making all this, the one thing that's on the other side is actually called biochar. Biochar is
What is this?
It's a component in making graphite and graphene.
It's a byproduct?
It's a byproduct.
That's fascinating.
But
what use
most
is
people
this?
think it's like charcoal, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's sequestered carbon. So if you used it for those products, but you can also use it in agriculture. So you could actually put it into small, like an aggregate, and you could spread it over a farm. And you'd say, why would you do that? Well, because what happens is it has no PFAS, because it's all been now eliminated,
right?
because it broke the chain. In addition to that, it also retains water, which means that when it rains, it keeps the soil moist.
Oh, I love that.
Right. And then it controls the amount of water that's released to the ground.
I was just going to say it limits then the amount that you need to water because you're harnessing the actual natural rainwater in there.
Right, which means now your recharge basins are filling instead of it running off into the street and running off into the sound. Because when it runs off to the sound, it takes nitrogen with it.
Correct.
It takes all your chemicals, your fertilizers.
Because normally it would percolate down through the ground and then naturally filtrate.
Because that's right, because it's a slow release as
Correct.
opposed to just a flooding.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then naturally we're having too much runoff into that South Bay, etc. Specifically how the topography of Long Island is shaped, almost like there's a peak in the middle by like the LIE. That allows us to then prevent that type of buildup, which is fascinating. I love this.
Yeah.
And that's the technology that we need to harness. That's the type of, I think, also studying we need to perpetuate. I really want to, I love that because it's so novel, specifically to me. I mean, many others who maybe are listening might know that, but I find that fascinating of how we can create, and this is exactly my point of evolving over the next decade.
Correct.
With our studies. So this has been, Maddie, this has been so educational, informative. I appreciate immensely you coming on, and thank you so much for your time. This has been great, buddy. I'm looking forward. Perhaps next year we'll have a nice follow-up to what's been the updates with all these different technologies.
Well, at that point, I think we'll have some bragging rights. So I'd be happy to come back on. So
look forward to it. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thanks.